All right, that's much better fucking light. Much better lighting. Get that lighting together. And we looking all dark. I thought I was gonna have much more daylight to work with, but I don't. Exactly the countdown. Let's go. All right, so as I was saying before I had to cut out there. Okay, as I said before, Democrats don't have a problem with anything. It's the fact that, as I said before, we Republicans don't give a fuck about lying to y'all. Republicans are gonna lie, cheat, steal, whatever the fuck they gotta do to get your vote. And most people, because we live in a emotionally driven society, they're gonna lean on whoever's gonna tell them shit that feels good to them. As we see here with this Trump voter here.
I'll be honest with y'all about something. I voted for Trump. I'm in a little town outside of Memphis, and I voted for Trump mainly because I'm a Christian man. Been Christian, I guess my whole life. And Trump said he wants to help the Christians, And then he had me all scared about the Mexicans saying they're rapists and whatnot and drug dealers and all that. And he said, I'm going to help them. I'm going to end this on day one and fix eggs on day one. And it just all sounded real pretty like. And then here we are, and Trump's destroying America. That man ain't never spoke the truth, and I should have seen through it. They're a bunch of fucking fascists destroying our goddamn democracy. Excuse me. Destroying our Constitution, going against the courts, going against the laws. And the only people they care about is themselves. They ain't never cared about Christianity. I don't think they care about nothing except for money and power.
We have breaking news right now. Republicans on Capitol Hill have failed to include a number of Donald Trump's promises in this latest budget bill that they said would be included. Donald Trump had promised no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. And well, a tax expert just testified on Capitol Hill and said that none of that is included in this budget bill. One of the biggest policies on the campaign trail for Donald Trump was this no tax.
Speaking to people's emotions. When you're talking to broke people or struggling people, and you tell them some shit that sound good and feel good, they're gonna run with that shit. They're gonna take that shit to the bank and hold on hard to that. And when you try and talk logic to them, like the Democrats were doing, because the Democrats are logical speaking motherfuckers, they tell them, hey, this is the policy that I have in place, or have the policy, this is the policy I have that's gonna do this, that, and the other for your life. Because they're talking policy and they're not talking emotions. People tune that shit out because Donald Trump was saying, hey, no tax on tips. I'm going to take care of them. I'm not going to cut Medicare. Your life was better under me. And people just sat there and ran with that shit because the policies and the logic that Democrats were speaking did not speak to their fucking emotions. And we're living in an emotionally driven society.
On tip policy, but that looks like it's not going to be advanced, at least within the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives. And many are saying that this is a lie from Trump on the campaign trail. He's just not living up to the promises that he made while campaigning with voters. This is definitely a promise that helped him win a state like Nevada, which has one of the highest tip earners in the country in terms of number of employees who earn tips.
It's financially as well as emotionally.
Vincent, you voted for Donald Trump?
Yes, I did.
He thought the Trump administration was going to focus solely on deporting criminals. It seems immigration officials, he says, are just trying to meet quotas now. 6 Nicaraguan men who on May 27th were detained along US 1 in Sugarloaf Key on their way to a job. Their immigration attorney says it should not have happened because 5 of the 6 have their paperwork in order with pending asylum cases. Vincent Scardina is the owner of the roofing company where they worked. He's owned it 37 years.
You become their friends, just not an employer, but a friend. and you see what happens to their family, it's quite a shock.
Given his support for the president, we asked what he would tell the commander-in-chief if he had a chance.
What happened here? This situation is just totally, just blatantly not at all what they said.
I've seen the light, and I got out of MAGA. A lot of us there have seen the light. We have deep regrets.
I feel guilty because I voted for Trump twice. I feel very guilty because I feel responsible. That's why he's still running.
I used to be a MAGA Republican, and now I've turned blue.
I expected better from you. I really did. I expected that you would do what was right and cut waste and fraud and all of those things that you promised us before we elected you in office. But you're not doing that. You're creating a disaster, and I don't know what America's going to look like if this continues.
Did you ever think that your job would be impacted in a Trump administration?
But she's not even
No, absolutely not.
For President Trump, what were you hoping that he would do?
What were you hoping?
I was hoping he would did something that made sense regarding the economy, made some kind of progress in bettering, you know, the benefits of being a veteran. But I mean, it just seemed like he actually cared about doing what was best for the country. But now it just feels like all about me, Donald Trump, not, you know, the guy out there working in the trenches trying to make ends meet, trying to pay a mortgage, trying to pay the bills.
You know anyone personally who voted for President Trump but depends on benefits like Medicaid?
Oh yeah, I know a lot of people.
Trump promised a lot of things. I thought it will be more family values and those programs that they really need here.
One of those promises was to protect Medicaid, which 67% of people in this district rely on. It's the largest percentage of any district in the entire country.
Medicare, Medicaid will not be touched.
Yeah, I mean, I have said it so many times, we're not going to touch it.
But his administration just proposed an $880 billion cut to Medicaid over the next.
So as you can see there, the man said, blatantly to these folks, I've said it so many times, I'm not going to cut Medicaid. I'm not going to cut Medicare. He said it, but that's not actually what is happening. Have you seen the big, beautiful bill that's out there? It proposes the biggest cuts to Medicaid and Medicare and social services in general that we've ever fucking seen. And why is that? Because he didn't give a fuck. He just knew that if I say certain things, y'all are going to run with it. And that's the nature of the Republican Party now. Democrats are going to speak to your logic. Democrats are going to tell you what they will and won't fucking deal with. And to emotionally driven people, they're the bad guys. To emotionally driven people, anybody that speaks honesty or the truth directly to you, they're the bad guys. And to emotionally driven people, if you speak to their emotions, they're going to fucking defend you and, you know, make you feel like you can't do no wrong because, hey, that's what they said. They said what they said. They said we're going to do. That's what he said he's going to do. And what are we seeing now? What the fuck are we seeing now? We're seeing a lot of motherfucking Trump voters having regrets because they felt like he was going to do this. Oh, I didn't think he was going to go do this. Like, the man said this shit. But because he spoke to y'all emotions, you ignored the bullshit and held strong to those pipe dreams. While we had a Democrat and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden for a while telling you policy-oriented stuff, and you guys were looking past, and then I even had black people telling, oh, well, Trump ain't, man, they just trying to put that shit on that man. That man ain't like that. You fucking kidding me? I'm gonna get to that in a minute. When I talk about Charleston White, because I got some shit for you niggas too. But to get back to the point, you can even see this transpiring in the Florida Democratic race. The Florida governor's race. We've got to a point where, no, I don't think Democrats have a problem. I think that the reality is that Democrats understand that they can't go out there speaking to people's logic anymore. And that puts most Democrats in a fucked up spot because they built their fortune, they built their fame, that's some unfortunate. They built their whole platform off telling you what it is, what it ain't gonna be, and how it's gonna be. And we see now Republicans don't even have to give you real fucking logic. They don't have to give you real facts. I want you to take a look at something here, and we're gonna dissect the Democratic nominee for governor for the state of Florida's comments and the Republican nominee's statements. And take note, because people will the news and media will highlight the Democrats that are dropping out of the Democratic Party or switching parties or going NPA, but they're not talking about the Republicans that are swapping sides, because they'll make it seem like the Republicans are swapping sides. That's why I say Republicans are very good at marketing, because they're playing their marketing fingers in the media, and they're making it seem as if Democrats are the only ones that are losing party members, when in fact the Democratic nominee for governor of the state of Florida is a former Republican. Yes, I said that he's a former Republican. Look.
Candidate for governor of Florida, David Jolly, was once a member of the House of Representatives from South Florida and was a Republican. He left Congress in 2017, became an independent in 2018, and in April, Jolly registered as a Democrat. Local 10's Glenna Milberg has a look at the state of the governor's race.
And if we can attack the affordability crisis as a coalition, we can create change in Florida.
His top issue is familiar to Florida, and in many ways, so is David Jolly, former Republican congressman, then independent most of the last decade, TV political pundit, and as of April, a Democrat, and today officially running for governor.
Why is this not going to be Republican, Independent, Democrat, Charlie Crist type from a few years ago 2.0? What's different?
I was a Republican when I was in the United States Congress, kind of a never good enough Republican, if you will. I supported marriage equality, climate change, gun control, all the things Republicans didn't want.
Why not run as an independent?
Because an independent cannot win in the state of Florida.
Not what State Senator Jason Pizzo thinks, who left the Democrats to become no party affiliation and plans to run for governor that way.
And I will return to who I was when I became a young man, independent.
Now let's take a moment and dissect what Jolly said. Jolly gave you actual policy. Jolly gave you actual statements. Hey, I'm for abortion rights, equal rights. I'm for these particular things. Now, Pizzo, on the other hand, like I said, they're recognizing that being a Democrat is not sexy and attractive anymore. So Pizzo's going independent.
The Republican to beat so far in the race is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. With a Trump endorsement as GOP jet fuel, Donalds has been fundraising and campaigning across the state.
It's really just building upon the success of Governor DeSantis. I mean, like I said, we're the best state in the country now. So it's not about making a lot of changes. It's really building upon the work that's already been done.
There's only one Morgan for the people.
Now, Byron Donalds there said something interesting that I want to point out. This motherfucker just told us no policy whatsoever. None. Not a bit. He spoke to your emotions. We're going to build off the successes of Governor DeSantis. Keyword, successes. We're going to build off the successes. So people are going to think, oh, well, it's already good stuff. But when you literally look, when you really and truly look at the state of Florida, over the last 20 years, Florida has been run by fucking Republicans. And Florida's housing has gotten fucking outrageous. Gas prices getting outrageous. You have people that cannot even afford to live in this fucking state anymore and work the current job they're having. But this motherfucker Byron Donalds is gonna tell you, oh, we're gonna build off the successes of Governor DeSantis. And we got a fucking impending housing crisis going on in the state of Florida. We got, like I said, we got people that cannot afford to buy homes and they're working full-time fucking jobs in the state of Florida. And that wasn't like that when we were kids. But under Republican leadership, what the fuck we had in Florida? Fucking hard time. That's what we had. But let Byron Donalds tell it, or we're gonna build off the successes of Governor DeSantis. Mind you, these motherfuckers are beefing right now, which is crazy. And he's trying to pose it as, hey, we're gonna just keep going with, the good stuff. They tell you not a fucking thing in policy. But that's what they do. Because why? They know that you're emotionally charged, and if they tap dance on your emotions, then they could get you to do whatever the fuck they want you to do.
No attorney and politically active John Morgan has hinted at creating a third party to run for governor, but won't jump in until after the August primaries.
I think I'd rather run in a sprint than.
I welcome John Morgan to run for office in the state of Florida. But as I was saying, man, the Democrats don't have a problem. Republicans are just very good at marketing. And Republicans understand that they don't have to tell you policy or anything real detail orientated to get you to get behind them. All they gotta do is speak to your emotions. And at the same time, push the false narrative that Democrats only focus on gay shit. Democrats ain't really concerned. Democrats ain't, you ain't getting none, you're doing better under Republicans. When in reality, like I said, in the state of Florida, we've had Republican leadership for going on 20-some years. And Florida is one of the most expensive states to live in now. You know, I'm not going to say we're the most expensive state, but compared to what we saw when I was growing up as a kid coming up in the state of Florida, this shit is not it. This shit is ghetto. This is not what I signed up for when I was a kid growing up on 19th Street in Lauderdale. This ain't the shit that I said I wanted to be a part of when I grew up. And a lot of that has to deal with Republican leadership. We're seeing our state university system in the state of Florida get completely hijacked to the point where majority of the state universities now have leadership installed by the governor. We have New College of Florida that was on the upward trajectory, and now they're fucking, facing issues because of the leadership that was installed. We have FIU that just had their new president installed. And they're not just outright doing it, they're doing it really creepishly. The governor has successfully taken over the board of trustees for just about every university in the fucking state of Florida. And when you're talking about these moves, what we see today was put in place 5-6 years ago, plus years ago. So people are mad today, about, people like MAGA Marva, the new president of the FAMU. But you got to understand the moves that led to this woman being installed as president, they weren't just made today. And this also speaks to a lot of what I was talking to earlier. When you have people that know the population is emotionally driven over logic, you can do a lot of shit without them knowing it. Give them something to focus on over here and do the bullshit over here. And unfortunately, like I said before, when you're dealing with individuals that are emotionally driven and you try to speak directly or logically or honestly to them, they're going to view you as a hater. They're going to view you as not wanting to, be in touch with reality. When it really is that they want you to cater to their feelings. And that's where we're at in society. We're at a point in American society where a lot of people want you to cater to their feelings over their thoughts. And when you don't cater to those feelings, a lot of people just check out and say, oh, well, I'm going to go over here and, shake this fan and, line dance, do some other shit and not pay attention to what's going on because that ain't got nothing to do with me. And then, FAMU got MAGA Marva as president. FIU got fucking former lieutenant governor of the state of Florida. We got a lot of individuals that are running educational institutions in the state of Florida that have no fucking experience with it. None whatsoever. None at all. Now, I'm not going to sit here and bash old cockeyed ET ass MAGA Marva, but I'm not going to talk good about either because I don't know the lady. I will make jokes, but I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about her professionally on this platform. Because I don't know a lot about her in regards to what she's going to do for education realm. I have gone on record and said, well, if she's so good of a lobbyist and, bringing the money, my phone is still on here. She's so good at being a lobbyist and bringing in the money. Show me the motherfucking money. Bring the money in, Marva. Let's change that MAGA Marva to Money Marva. You change that shit to Money Marva and you got that money flowing through FAMU, you change a lot of motherfucking opinions about you. You change a lot of feelings about you. But if you come into FAMU, that bullshit that a lot of people think you're going to be on, I don't know what to say. All right, so what's next up I want to talk about? Y'all seen this shit?
So, question, first of all, Trump supporter or not?
Trump supporter, yes.
Trump supporter.
I go back from the 80s. So I remember back in the 80s, Trump was projected as a bad guy or a villain to the black community.
Right.
Going up into the 90s, he still wasn't projected as a bad guy and black guy to the 90s.
Right.
Going up into the 2000s when he had the show Apprentice, he still wasn't presented. It wasn't until he got into politics that all of a sudden he become a villain to black people. I understand he got a base that he got to appeal to. It's just like if I were running for something, I'm gonna appeal to my nigga base.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't be mad at him for, appealing to his base. But he don't mean us no harm. He got way more of the thing to worry about than black people.
I agree with that. And that's his reason. You like I'm always like I am not a Trump supporter, but I don't have a problem with Trump. So I don't go around talking bad about it. See, a lot of people like if you don't like somebody, you stay away from them, you avoid them, and you try not to bump heads with them. You know, once you attack somebody, that's more than not supporting. That's that you become a hater.
These niggas. Now, Charleston, now I have defended Charleston White in the past. So let me say that. Let me get that out right now. I have defended Charleston White in the past because the man is a man of the kids. He's been out there trying to support the kids and do a lot of shit for these kids for a long time. And he uses a lot of what he makes going around these podcast circuits and doing all this wild, coonish shit to benefit the kids in his community. But this shit, my nigga, you fucking gooking. You tripping. You're acting like a stupid ass coon right now. Well, this is why it's important to know what the fuck you're talking about and not just listen to these podcasts, listen to motherfuckers say stupid shit. Because I've had a motherfucker really tell me, oh, well, Trump ain't racist, man. He's just trying to put that on him. Man, if he was so racist, then why all the rappers and shit was on him back in the day? Why you don't talk about Trump? First of all, you never notice how niggas always give respect to motherfuckers with money. They don't give a fuck how they got the money, where they got the money from. But as long as the motherfucker got a lot of money, niggas gonna sit there and coon and shuck and jive for them. That's what we seen in the early 80s and 90s when them rappers were dropping Trump name in the song. And notice, they wasn't talking about Trump being righteous. They was talking about wanting to be rich like Trump. They just wanted to be wealthy like Trump. They wanted money like Trump. They ain't talking about his character and all this other shit. They only idolize money. Niggas idolize money. We see it every day in the hood. When the motherfuckers running scams, PPP loans, drug dealers, anybody with some fucking money in the hood outside of the people that work the 9 to 5 for that shit get fucking put up on a pedestal in the black community. That's why rappers and all that shit was on Trump dick back in the day. It wasn't on his dick because he wasn't racist. It was on his dick because he had fucking money. And the fact that I gotta say that speaks to just what motherfuckers are paying attention to. Because while Charleston White's sitting there, I was on him back in the 70s. He wasn't back there. He wasn't this, that, didn't that. Yes, he was. Donald Trump's father was arrested in a fucking race riot. His fucking dad was beating up niggas. The fuck? And not only that, let's start this thing all right here. Now I bring receipts, y'all. It's the 70s, yeah. 1973. The U.S. Department of Justice. I got a lot of shit on my screen right now, so I can. Excuse me. 1973. The U.S. Department of Justice under the Nixon administration, Richard Nixon brought up charges against Trump. The fuck is y'all talking about? He sued the Trump Management sued the Trump Management Corporation for violating the Fair Housing Act. Federal officials found evidence that Trump had refused to rent to black tenants and lied to black applicants about whether apartments were available, among other accusations. Trump said the federal government was trying to get him to rent to welfare recipients. In the aftermath, he signed an agreement in 1975 agreeing not to discriminate to renters of color without admitting to previous discrimination. That's 73, Charleston White. What the fuck you talking about? He was on since the 70s, but he ain't never been. This is why it's important to know what the fuck you're talking about. To actually do some reading, do some research, do some looking up, and not just go with what you heard. Well, I heard that he wasn't. Motherfucker, the Nixon administration sued this motherfucker. Come on, man. Mr. Watergate himself sued Trump. Let's see. 1980s. Kit Brown, a former employee at Trump Castle, accused another one of Trump's businesses of discrimination. When Donna and Ivana came to the casino, the bosses would order all the black people off the floor. It was the 80s. I was a teenager, but I remember it. They put us all in the back. Come on, but he wasn't this, he wasn't that, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. Like, I've heard this fucking story over and over and over, and motherfuckers still be sitting there, oh, Trump, well, why? Well, why they was? Because niggas fucking glorify anybody with money. That's why they was on his dick. 89. Matter of fact, I don't even want to get into it, but that's the Central Part 5. And even after those individuals were exonerated, Trump still was sitting there doubling down. To this day, he still talks shit about the Central Part 5. Let's see. And it continues. We got more receipts. Over a decade of receipts here for you motherfuckers. So let's see. Trump didn't want to see black guys counting money. Why? Because he think they steal. At 92, they had to pay a $200,000 fine because it transferred black and woman dealers off tables to accommodate a big-time gamblers' prejudices. So understand, what they're saying in a nice way is that a racist-ass whale came into one of Trump's casinos and said, hey, I don't want to gamble with these niggas and these bitches. And they fucking moved them out the fucking tables. And they were found guilty. They had to pay a $200,000 fine for that shit. So everything they probably got off that well, they had to pay out in that fucking fine. Like, this is back in fucking, like, come on, man. This is over 20, 40, 30 years ago. Thank you, PJ. He always showed his colors, but people don't want to fucking realize it. We live in a time where, like I said, I keep saying this, people are emotionally driven. Emotionally fucking driven. These facts right here, people don't want to hear this shit. People do not want to hear this shit because it makes them think. It makes them come out of their emotions and use their brain. And people don't want to do that. These motherfucking devices right here, iPads and all the other shit, they're making people dumber. They're making people don't want to use their brain less. I just seen a study, a clip on Instagram earlier today. And I need to go read it about it, but it says something like when people are typing things in the chat GPT or Google searches, within 5 minutes, they're forgetting what they typed. Our cognitive abilities are fucking suffering because of technology. Our cognitive abilities are suffering because people don't want to pay attention. In 93, Trump said, Native Americans don't look like Indians to me. So what do Indians look like, Trump? I'm going to cut to the biggest motherfucking one of all. Trump openly was saying that Barack Obama was not born in the United States of America. I want to see his birth certificate. Y'all forgot, this is where that whole birther Tea Party MAGA movement started from, right here in 2011. This very fucking move right here was the beginning of it, of the whole MAGA Tea Party birther movement, because it went from birthers, because it was like all of them motherfuckers wanted to see Barack Obama's birth certificate. That was the next, hit the name birthers. To the Tea Party. They were pissed off that Barack got elected, and Trump was the head of the Tea Party, and the Tea Party just turned to MAGA. So we've seen all these things happen in society, but niggas like Charleston White and others want to say, "Oh, well, Trump ain't he ain't got that much. He ain't dealing. He ain't focused on this. He got a lot more to deal with than black people. He ain't want to deal with us. He ain't got nothing going on for us. He ain't trying to do nothing to us." Well, if he ain't trying to fuck us up, then I ask you, why did when he came in office, he got rid of all of the funding for the minority small business administration, dismantled the people in the offices that were tasked with helping black people get businesses up and running, helping brown people get business up and running. Aside from this move, we've seen him roll back civil rights protections, made it legal for people to discriminate against black people in different situations. We've seen a lot of shit happen in a short time span that impact black people in a negative way. So when I heard Charleston White say that bullshit, it rubbed me all types wrong. Because what the fuck is this? What the fuck? All the niggas that want to say, I'm gonna get this money, ain't got nothing to do with me. Y'all be relying on this fucking office. I know I have. But then again, hey, he ain't got nothing to do with me. He been ready. Like, y'all gotta really wake up and see what the hell is going on out here in this world. What do you think is next? First Spanish people, then everybody else. PJ, shout out to you for tuning in. But it's hard to say. The only reason I say it's hard to say is because we're seeing the Project 2025 manual be just carried out. And the only reason I say it's hard to say is because I don't know what page they on in the book. I know they're on one of the pages in the book, but I don't know which page they are on. And it's going to be a wild ride on these next 4 years. One thing I can tell people, clean your guns. Clean your motherfucking guns. To have plenty of these ready. Not necessarily these ones right here, but have something ready. Because I just full disclosure, you have these right here. Just be mindful. Be mindful. Be very mindful of where you put these freedom seeds at. This right here is gonna shoot through some shit. Billy Bob and his plate carrier ruck walking down the street thinking they're gonna do something. Gonna go right through his ass and that plate carrier. And possibly the motherfucker behind him. Don't get in my comments telling me, oh, well, you gotta be, you gotta go where those, wherever they hit, they hit. But when the shit hit the fan, I ain't worried about where they hit. Ain't even been a full year yet, and we're seeing all type of bullshit from the MAGA crowd. Ain't even been a full fucking year yet. Now, speaking of the MAGA crowd, have y'all seen Tucker Carlson tearing into these motherfuckers Republicans' ass lately? If you haven't, I got a clip for you.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population at all. No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah. How could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about the country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, this is cute. It's not even, you don't know anything about Iran. So okay, I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You don't know anything about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad. You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump? Yes, I do. Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. If you really believe that. We are carrying out military strikes today. You said Israel was. Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them. Well, you're breaking news here because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity. We're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them. You just said we were. We are supporting Israel. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Oh, wait, there's more.
I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government. I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do. But why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government... Hey, I talk with Israel all the time. Of course you do. Of course you do. All the time. But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working from Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. People have gone to jail. People I know. Okay. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of foreign government, they're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true. That is not only not true, that is false. They're not coordinating with the Israeli government.
Tucker Carlson is showing that he no longer identifies with MAGA. Now, I spoke to this before the election and said, there's a split in the Republican Party. There are some motherfuckers that are staunchly conservative, and there are old school Republicans that don't give a shit about the MAGA crowd. There's the MAGA crowd that don't give a shit about nothing else but MAGA. And all of them are identifying as Republicans. We're starting to see people distance themselves from MAGA that we never thought we would see. Tucker Carlson is one of them. He was not openly saying it, but he is giving their ass hell right now. And because this whole issue with Iran and Israel is it's a shame. Let me say that first. You know, there's no room for loss of life like that unnecessarily, and I don't know if there's necessarily a reason for losing life, but we've seen a lot of motherfuckers like Tucker Carlson come out lately, and they're distancing themselves. Either they're like the people in the clips I showed at the beginning, where they're having buyer's remorse, or they're just staunch conservatives that are like, hey, this is not Republican behavior. This is not what I signed up for. Kind of like when I was a kid, this Florida that's been being run by Republicans for over 20 years of fucking shit up is not the same Florida that I grew up. It's not what I signed up for. So as a Floridian, take us back. But we've seen, how about this? We've seen Tucker Carlson just light into their ass. And it's been funny because he's not wrong. He's not lying. If anything, he's showing the incompetent nature of this administration. We've seen people be put in positions that shouldn't be there in this administration. And we've also seen Republicans in Congress just not do their jobs. They're trying to make it seem in America like we can have a dictator, when that was never the purpose of what our American government was set up to be. Our government was specifically broken up into 3 equal parts to prevent one day us having a dictator or a king, if you will, in the United States of America. The democracy that we have is being trampled on. And to tie everything back in, I don't think that we have a problem. I don't think the Republicans, I don't think the Democrats have a problem with marketing or with their, base or anything like that. The real problem in America is that America has issues that they don't want to address. America doesn't like to see minorities lead. America, when we had Barack Obama as president, we had an astronomical amount of black people come out and vote. That shows you the voting power of a black voting bloc. We elected Barack Obama. America said for the longest time, they was tired of seeing old rich white men run this country. And when you had the option to vote for a black woman, change that, we seen America choose an old rich white man to run this country. I think America has a problem with lying to itself. I think that's the problem. We don't have a problem with, anything else. Bob Marley, no one. I think Democrats are good. I agree, bro. As Napoleon says, never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. The only thing is that I hope that America is paying attention, because what we see a lot of time in America is that people will accuse the Democrats of being soft or not doing certain things or just being full of shit. But then people will ignore the bullshit that Republicans are doing. People will ignore all the fuck shit that's going on and how it's impacting their life negatively. Like I said, Florida's a prime example of this. Florida's been under Republican leadership for a very long time. And housing prices in Florida have gotten fucking crazy out of control. You have, this was an interesting one here, you have insurance rates and insurance providers that are just fucking people over in the state of Florida. And our Republican-led House and Senate said, oh, we're going to investigate that and look into that in session. And then what happened when this bill that just came out earlier this week? Nothing to do with insurance whatsoever. And when media started asking them, hey, you guys said you were going to touch on the insurance crash that we have going on in the state of Florida. Oh, we just didn't have enough time to, address. Maybe we could get to it next time. That's the key thing. they'll tell you maybe we can do something, maybe we can do this, maybe we could do that, maybe we could do this, and then when it doesn't happen, they give you some excuse and just move right the fuck on, because they had no intention of addressing whatever the fuck you had a question about in the first place. They just knew that if they say maybe they would address it, you shut the fuck up and just still vote for them. And that's what we've seen a lot of, especially in the state of Florida. Byron Donalds telling you, hey, we're going to build off the successes of Ron DeSantis, who he's beefing with. But he knows they play the emotional game to say the key words like, hey, we've had success, we're doing this, we're doing that. But ask anybody in the state of Florida, they'll tell you shit is fucked up. But people don't want to recognize that Republicans fucked it up. Because Republicans are very good at that marketing game and playing with your emotions. While Democrats are going to tell you the boring policy shit that you don't really want to pay attention to, but what's actually good for your life, Republicans are going to tell you some flashy shit that's going to get you on board with them that they have no interest in fucking dealing with, and then do some shit to line their pockets on the backside. And what we end up with is people, oh, all politicians. No. Stop saying that and pay attention to who the fuck is doing what. And then you'll stop saying, oh, well, all of them doing bad. Because that's your automatic cop-out, because you know you weren't paying attention. And so the blanket is to say, oh, all of them bad, all of them lie, all of them this, all of them, all of them. No, all of them don't. The people that were supporting you, you weren't supporting them. That's just how it goes. That's how it's happening. That's what the fuck is going on. So no, Democrats don't have a problem. Republicans are really good at tap dancing on your emotions. And people just don't pay attention. People just don't fucking pay attention. People pay attention to the flashy and the entertaining and the shit that gives you that dopamine effect, that relaxation, that feel good effect. But the shit that's gonna really fucking make you think and have you really fucking trying to process some thoughts, people don't want to do that. That ain't what we have in society. If you can speak to somebody's emotions, you got them in your fucking hands. And it's sad. It's fucking sad. But hey, that's what we have in America. PJ, I see you comment about they cheated, you know. I'm trying hard not to dive down that rabbit hole, because I don't know how we would prove it. I just don't know how to prove it. I'm well aware that there are recounts going on in New York right now. There are places that say Kamala ain't got not one fucking vote. But the times we're living in, I don't want to go too deep into it, because without real supporting evidence or information, it's me playing on people's emotions. And I don't want to do that. I will crash out on some shit, but what I refuse to do is try and play on people's emotions. And I know that one will get a lot of people emotionally involved. But it also is treading down that conspiracy theory highway that Republicans live on. And I don't want to do that. I just don't. I won't say it's not true. What I'll say is, I don't know. That's what they say. Oh, man. I think, is there anything else that I had to touch on? Because we've had not too much happen this week. The main thing that dominated the news cycle was MAGA Marva and the Iran-Israel situation, which was started by Donald Trump, y'all. Donald Trump pulled America and Donald Trump fucking just tanked the whole Iran deal during his first presidential term. And it was at that point that Iran restarted their weapons program. Iran was good and chill and cool with having a seat at the table. It was all right until Donald Trump pulled them out. Now, the other thing that Donald Trump did to escalate this was in March, he gave Israel the biggest weapons package that they had ever gotten in the history of ever. If you don't believe me, we pull up the Calm that bit down. There's something there. There we go. There we go. There we go. This was happening earlier this year. In March, Donald Trump gave Israel the biggest weapons package that they have ever gotten. Why just didn't do that? Why you didn't do that? They gave military assistance to the tune of $12 billion. $12 billion in arms. I can't help but notice the silence of all the motherfuckers that accuse Kamala and Joe of being complicit in the genocide right now. Because if what Kamala and Joe did was being complicit in the genocide, what the fuck do you call this right here? What do you call this? This is $12 billion in arms is more than they have ever gotten. Ever in the history of ever. But hey, Kamala and Joe was complicit in the genocide. That happened in March. 3 months later, Israel, unprovoked, bombs Iran. But what they didn't know was that Iran had been building up their fucking weapon system. What they didn't know was that Iran was solidifying their defenses. What they didn't know is that Iran had a fucking missile over there that could zigzag and shoot and do all this shit right here and avoid their weapons deterrent system, aka the Iron Dome. What they didn't know was Iran had a missile that not only could zigzag, but had a miniature warhead that would detach and continue to zigzag and then become hypersonic. And if you don't know what hypersonic is faster than the speed of sound, y'all. These rockets that Iran are shooting at Israel are covering hundreds of miles in minutes because they're flying supersonic. And the combination between that supersonic speed and the ability to build a rocket that fucking zigzags and moves and does all this other shit is fucking Israel up. Because notice, Israel, they bombed them, ain't say nothing. They wasn't calling for the U.S. help. But as soon as Iran started bombing their ass back, and they realized that that Iron Dome was getting Swiss cheesed up, they got scared. They called Trump. Hey, Trump, oh, hey, man, hey, they got some new shit over there, bro. Since you fucking killed Iran, dude, them motherfuckers been over there building some shit. And we ain't set up for it. We need help. We need help. Now, Trump is in the tough, he's been rocking the hard space because he's like, I don't have the power to drag us into a war. And I've been campaigning on saying, hey, I was the most peaceful president ever. There was no wars, anything like that. I'm a big, strong, tough guy. The world is safe with Trump in office. 6 months into his term, Ukraine and Russia ain't nowhere near being over. So much so Ukraine is all but stop communicating with the United States. They're dealing with the EU to get their bombs and their weapons and everything else to continue on the fight. And now Iran, unprovoked, they struck Israel with some of that $12 billion in arms that Trump gave them in March. Think it's coincidence? Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about this whole Israel-Iran thing is that Iran has been supplying Russia with munitions and ammunition to fight the Ukraine war. And Iran has said, and Russia has said, hey, USA, if you get involved, then we get involved. And China has also said, hey, USA, if you get involved, we're getting involved because we fuck with Iran. So that's why Trump is so, I'll make a decision in 2 weeks. He has no intention of making the decision in 2 weeks. he's hoping that you all forget about this shit. That's what he's hoping, because he knows you guys are mostly driven. And if he tells you something that doesn't have a deadline, you'll eventually forget. Just like he said, hey, I'll eventually release my tax returns. Oh, I'll eventually release my medical, history. I'll eventually release this, that, and other, which was never released. So, you got to pay attention to the long haul, not just today. You understand? So that's, my, podcast for this week, for today. Thank you all for tuning in. PJ, my boy, since we was, 19th Street. Bob, I already know one. I don't know who he is, but I appreciate you. And whoever else had a comment, I forgot your name, but thank you. And all the viewers, I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Let me stop. It's Friday night, y'all. You ain't taking a shot yet? Better take one. Because the world we're living in, it make you drink. So, thank y'all for tuning in.